Well, as we all know, this is the agenda for today for our Townhall, guys. We are just done with the first part, welcoming everyone, telling others where we are coming from and how we are. And then we have a little bit of a presentation to explain what is deep funding. I think it's important, probably not for most people here, but for any newcomers we have, any people watching afterwards the video and trying to join our community. Then we have some updates from Jan and Rafael, which we are excited to hear. And finally, some updates in terms of the DF and the progress with the voting weight, the reputation tools, and the algorithms done by PHOTREK, with Joanna presenting to all of us. Thank you, Joanna. And to start, it's kind of hard to define things. I don't like it very much, but we have to try it. So we're trying to define here what is deep funding. And I would say, in my words, not official words, deep funding is a decentralized grants program tasked to fund projects and initiatives that will be beneficial to SingularityNET. And then we need to come to what is SingularityNET? What are they trying to do? And we take this straight out of the Deep Funding website for the mission of SingularityNET. For anyone watching for the first time, SingularityNET is a AI marketplace, a decentralized AI marketplace that aims to create a democratic, decentralized, and beneficial AGI. And we have here very important values that we guide our action, that are openness, creativity, collaboration, and kindness. And those are the kind of values we want to have here in this town hall and hear from all of you participating in Deep Funding. Also important to note, Deep Funding is a community-run program. So you have a lot of opportunities to start getting more engaged, involved, and to actually contribute. Of course, the first thing is you can propose your ideas for AI or whatever it is, but you can also come join us and just vote, tell us what are the best projects whenever we have around, and making sure that we are closer to reach that kind of beneficial AGI we all want. You can review these projects and provide the builders here with useful feedback so they can keep growing and developing. But most of all, and probably the easiest way, you can join us in these town halls, in these events. You can discuss, learn about AI, about AGI, about what is beneficial AGI, and how can you actually contribute to it by joining our SingularityNET community. And then more importantly, for the future, probably if you're just starting, we have the circles, because the deep funding operations are being carried out by the community members in different circles, focused in specific initiatives and specific things we need to do, such as, for example, marketing, or for example, this town hall itself, that will become a circle run by the community. But remember, please, during the process, this town hall is for you, so don't feel shy. Come out of mute, turn on the camera, or turn it off, whatever you prefer, feel comfortable, and just join. Tell us your opinion. Bring any topics and anything you want to talk about. We are here to hear you and to create a good place for communication. Above all, a place to learn, ask questions, and get deeper into your deep funding journey. We are, as a town hall, working on driving this town hall to be very community focused. So you guys, you guys, please feel free to come. We'll have places for you to present your community initiatives, your awarded projects. During this town hall, we are creating a process for that. But meanwhile, if you want to do it, you can just reach out and we'll take care of that. And you'll be able to also host breakout rooms about specific topics. Imagine you want to discuss something about AI or about a very specific programmer or developer question. This is a great place for you to create your town hall, your breakout room session in the town hall, and to discuss those topics you think are important, to create a cool initiative with the community, a cool moment. Thank you all very much, and I will not waste your time anymore, and I'll go to Jan and Rafael. Please, Jan and Rafael, tell us what are the updates you have prepared for us.
Jan and Rafael, it sounds like we need to do one sentence me and then one sentence you, and then go on. Yeah, I'll kick it off. So first I thought that there's not that much to tell. There are really a lot of things going on. We have a lot of projects that we're working on. We have a lot of ideas that we're working on. Some I think are very cool, very promising, but not too much that we can show at this moment. However, there is one thing that actually is quite urgent to inform you about, which is the whole AGIX to ASI migration. So I dove into that a little bit because it's getting a little bit more closer, and we need to determine and clarify how we will treat this also in the context of deep funding. So what is happening on the central exchanges is that Ocean and AGIX are being merged into FAT first. So that is the first stage that is now ongoing. When I looked at KuCoin today, I still saw AGIX, but I believe in other exchanges, AGIX has already been merged into FAT. So that means that you will have FAT on your account instead of AGIX if it was already there. And then the next stage will be that FAT will be transitioned into ASI. And when that is done, the whole official part of the migration is done. We don't have exact timelines there because we're not fully in control. The exchanges will determine by themselves when exactly this is going on. Now, as for deep funding, we are working with AGIX, obviously, but we will also transfer to ASI. For the coming weeks, we will be on AGIX. The moment that exchanges have transitioned to ASI, we will also transition to ASI, but that might take a little while because there are some backend processes that we need to update. We have some automation in place to do our weekly payments, milestone payments, circle payments, etc. There also needs to be some changes on the SingularityNET side for executing these payments. We have some Amazon service which now runs on AGIX, so that needs to be updated also. Not huge tasks or anything, but we'll only start that when the rest of the transition is done. So there will be a small cap before that is finalized. And then when we are paying an ASI and there's ASI on the exchanges, everything will be ASI. So that might open the question for you, what do I do with my AGIX? That is one valid question. And the other one could be, if I get AGIX paid right now as an awarded team or circle member, and I need to liquidate it to pay my bills or whatever, how do I do that? So there are basically two options for that. One option, which may be easiest, would be to go to a decentralized exchange, and there you can still exchange your AGIX, but it might not be the cheapest solution. So if you want to go for cheap and safe, the best way, if you suppose that you have AGIX on ADA, which is what we are paying out, then it would involve a multi-step process or two-step process, really. So first you would need to bridge your AGIX on ADA to AGIX on Ethereum, at least for the time being. And then you can use our migration tool on Singularity DAO to exchange your AGIX on Ethereum to FAT. And then that FAT you can transfer to an exchange and liquidate that in any other token that you would like. Going forward, we will also have tooling where you can transition your AGIX on ADA directly to ASI, but you will have to wait until there's ASI on the exchanges. And so this is a temporary solution, that two-step process that you could use if you are in some urgent need of exchanging those tokens, which I can imagine. So that's the rough outline. One important, very important thing here. I always assume that anybody who gives us their wallet address for payments is giving their regular own private wallet address. I think in the past we had once or something that somebody actually gave an exchange address. So if you give the exchange address of your AGIX wallet, and you would do that right now, or you would have done that in the past, and we would make a transfer to that, a transaction. Yeah, that might give unexpected results because the exchanges are in a migration period, so you cannot trade AGIX on a central exchange at this moment in time. So it's unpredictable what would happen if we would send those tokens to an exchange wallet. So we urgently want to ask everybody, please check if we have a wallet known with us that is validated, and you know that this is an exchange address, please contact us and we will update that. We'll do some updates on that. We'll make sure that one way or another we get validated by every awarded team and every person that we make payments to, that we're sure. So we will ask you whether it's indeed a regular wallet address before we do any payment. So until we have that information, we will play it safe, and we will not make any payments to wallet addresses that we're not 100% sure of. But we'll use your word for it. So we have to think about the exact format in which we ask you this. But if you tell us, no, Jan, Rafael, it's safe, and this is my own wallet, then that's okay, and we'll continue as planned. So yeah, it's a little bit a weird limbo situation that we are in right now, in between one token and another. I hope it won't take too long. And I hope very soon we can all benefit of having ASI and doing everything in ASI. So yeah, that's what I wanted to tell you about. We have a document created with all this information. We already shared it on Mattermost, on Awarded Teams channel, and on the All Circles channel. So basically everybody that gets paid should be able to access that document already. Not sure if we'll put it out on social media or anything, but if you have any questions in general, outside of the particular deep funding perspective, you can go to superintelligence.io, and there you have a lot of information, and more information will be added there over time. So that's a practical update. Any questions? Then I've put you all to sleep, which is a great accomplishment. So thank you.
Yeah, that's a first. Oh, okay, Clement, go on.
I didn't know I was already unmuted. Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you, Raf. Thank you, Jan, for the updates. I just wanted to say, can we make maybe like some sort of consideration, people who you just got funded? Do you think maybe it's a lot safer to wait until maybe everything around the whole conversion process is settled? Then maybe we can start submitting our milestones.
Yeah, so if anybody would prefer to wait until we can just pay out in ASI, I have no objections at all to that. We can your milestones will be there, and we will keep track of that, so it will still be there. So yeah, just let us know that you'd rather like to pause. You can still put your milestones forward for approval, so they're there when we're ready. But yeah, I can imagine if that would make you feel more comfortable, then that would be fine. Sure.
Yeah, all right, thank you.
Yeah, on that regarding about operations, we are going to reach each of you making this question that Jan mentioned about, hey, your wallet address comes from a centralized exchange, decentralized exchange, what's the type? And then you can also give the feedback on, hey, I wish to hold my disbursements until we have further development into this merge. So that's also a good question. So Mayor, take note about that as well for us to inquire people. Okay, thank you, Clement. Thank you. Yeah, additionally to this very important notice, we have last week, the end of the last week, we put a form survey for those that are willing to apply for the new data analysis circle. Okay, so it's going to be a very important and interesting as well to develop circle where we are going to audit, assess, make new products from it for voting, to calculate the votes and etc. Based on the tooling that we have and are developing throughout our other teams, our other projects, or internally. But this is also a circle that's going to take care about all data analysis things, right? Giving advice on where we should be improving or not, and assessing data and generating information and insights from rounds for us to improve and get better. Last town hall I mentioned it about, but now the form is out. I am sharing here in the chat the link where you can assess and apply for this position. Well, let's call it. We are going to start with the coordinators of such circle, right? Put together all the structuring of such a circle, and then we are going to improve it or increase the number of members. Also, initially, it's going to be part of the operations circle, which is led here by Mayor and also Rojo, taking care about the automation, which is all connected. But it's very important to say that the data analysis circle and its members, we want to give them all the independence that they need in order to track what's going on around circles, deep funding, and etc., right? So it's just this initial push that we are going to have them under the operations until all is done. In this regard, as Rafael here said as well, we are starting or bootstrapping a circle for town hall so soon. We might have news around it, around the framework that we are going to use, potentially going in a regional approach as well around the world, having opportunities to those that are really wants to excel in this part. As I mentioned, Operation Circle, led by Mayor and Rojo, is also some circle that's starting and it's going to be dealing with general, but mostly awarded teams in this sense. Developers outreach is another circle that we are working on, and it's about to be formatted and going to developing hackathons and so on, bringing more members to this community, right? Yeah, that's much of the announcements that we have for our updates, I would say, from Deep Funding. We also have specific situations, for instance, with work group. We have already, as you know, work groups for the job platform and collaboration. We also have the work group that's dealing with now the changes for the round 5, right? So we are going to assess the feedback that the community give. We have members that came from stakeholders of round 4, expert reviewers, circle reviewers, marketing that was very important to this round, and so on. And we have representatives that are going to discuss along with the Deep Funding staff what we should be doing, but all of the community are going to be able to make their inputs in specific town halls that we are going to host in the future, okay? So keep attention on our schedule for you to be able to contribute as well with your thoughts and insights. Yep, that being said, I leave the floor again to you, Rafael. Thank you very much for everyone attending today.
Thank you. Rafael. Now we are here, Rafael. Kind of confusing for the audience. No, but thank you. Great updates for everyone. And if you have questions, you always have the socials, Telegram, Discord, whatever you need, and you can always reach out to the team and to everyone. Well, now let's move forward to what's probably one of the most interesting parts of our call, the discussion brought by Joanna and PHOTREK about the DF voting weight and repetition tools and algorithms, a project you've been funded for, and you've also are continuing now in round 4, right, Joanna?
Yeah, exactly. So hi, everyone. Thank you for having me. I will be presenting with my teammate, Igor. So I'll be sharing my screen. And I know a lot of you have seen this before, but there are some new faces. So I'll try not to be very repetitive, but I'll just give a really quick overview once again about us. May I have screen sharing ability?
Try it now, it should work.
Yeah, perfect. So can you guys see my screen okay?
Yes, I can see it.
I can't see anyone. Sorry, 1 second. Let me try this once more. Okay, perfect. Okay, awesome. So yeah, like we mentioned, we're just here to talk today a bit about our DF3 proposal that we got funded, and then we're going to touch on a little bit about our DF4 proposal that continues this project. So for those of you that haven't met us before, we're PHOTREK, and we specialize in 3 verticals, so risk intelligence, DAO governance, and environmental impact.
But if you are going to
so just a bit of background about this, our efforts specific to reputation and voting weight for deep funding. So in deep funding round 2, we were funded to build the proof of concept. At that time, the proposal portal that we were using was called Sway. So we used the data from Sway to automate the engagement scores. And then in this round, we were initially funded to continue that effort and build the MVP to incorporate voting weight. But as all of you know, we migrated to a new proposal portal. So we shifted the scope a bit to be able to actually import the data from the proposal portal and the data from the voting portal to then automate the full calculation and output the final voting weight for each community member. And as well, we worked on improving some of the calculations and the algorithms that were initially implemented. As well, our team member trust level also conducted a series of community workshops around reputation, and those involved ecosystem stakeholders like Rejuve, Mindplex, SDAO. So we've been very involved with this and gathering a lot of requirements around this specific topic. And PHOTREK in this round as well, or in deep funding round 4 beta, won a proposal to develop a simulation to just measure the quality of community decisions based on different voting mechanisms. So this is all of the work that we've been involved in that's specific to this topic, which is we call it reputation or engagement scores. We're still all dabbling with the exact word to use, but that and voting weight. So I'll just quickly touch on what the MVP tool was meant to do, and then I'm going to give you guys a really quick run through of the actual tool. So for this, we wanted to build a fully functioning tool that imports, like I mentioned, the data from the proposal portal, the data from the voting portal, and the wallet linking tool, and then perform some ETL operations, visualize the tables, and then we wanted to integrate the algorithms. So as you guys are already, you already know of this, but so the timeline for this was very constrained. I'm very proud of the team for pulling it off. But it was like we built it and tested it and outputted all at the same time. And so the algorithms that we created weren't actually implemented for this round. There was a discussion with a focus group on whether they should be implemented or we should just keep the same calculations that were used for previous rounds and then potentially do like a comparison analysis, which we'll also touch on a bit later. So we use the same calculations that were used for the previous rounds to calculate the voting weights for this round. And then the tool is able to export outputs. So I'll just show you quickly what the tool looks like. And the way we ran it was three of our team members run the tool locally on their computer, and then Rojo from the DF community also ran it on his computer. So 4 of us ran the tool on their computer and ran the full calculations, and then the outputs were then migrated into a format that's familiar more to the deep funding team to analyze. But essentially, so this is the tool. We're able to quickly just import the voting portal data here.
Joanna, can I just interrupt and ask a question to everyone? Can everyone see the screen well? Because for me, it's showing a little bit small, but
yeah,
might be
it's
visible.
Joanna and the screen appearing.
You
So
share 2 screens, Joanna. Your own screen.
Oh, let me fix that. I'm so sorry.
I thought it was on purpose, which it did have a nice touch, but for
No, it's not on purpose at all. Okay. Is this better?
That's much better.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Yeah. So then here you just import the CSV. So the voting data portal was outputted as a CSV. So this is what we use to import it here. Finally, the AGX balance. And then after it's imported, we fetch from API. So this is the API that was built to fetch the data from the proposal portal. So we were working with the 2 separate teams, the blockchain data team within SingularityNET that works on the voting portal. And then also we were working with the proposal portal data team. As you know, obviously these teams are separate. So there was a lot of communication that needed to be worked on. And then we needed to just make sure that all the data structures were aligned and everything was able to be captured properly. So this is, once the data is actually imported, you can go through all of the different tables. So we organize them into tables in the database, and here you can just really easily go through all the different tables to kind of see all the data. And then here is the analysis. So this is where we implemented the algorithm. So here you have a quick snapshot of just key metrics. Then you can see some engagement scores. So this is the engagement score calculation that was used, and this is the table. This is the reputation weight algorithm that was used, and this is the outputs of that. This is the final voting weight, and then this is the voting results. So this is the eligibility conditions. So then we were able to export those. This is very preliminary. I think we still need to work a bit on this, but we're implementing some network analysis graphs just to be able to understand them a little better. So then we were able to export those and then reformat them into a spreadsheet, and that's what was used to actually find which proposals were funded for this round and which weren't, unfortunately. So this was a quick snapshot of a run through of the tool that was used and what we built in the background. As for the current proposal, we're on milestone 7. So we've completed all milestone 6. This is our last milestone for this current proposal. And so I wanted to use this space to just get some feedback, community questions, recommendations, anything that you think is useful to add into our final report. And before we move on, we just thought also, because we know that the data analysis circle will now be responsible for conducting some comparison analysis with some of the algorithms that we've outputted. For multiple reasons, the entire algorithms can't be fully implemented because there's data that's missing, or there's still some data that needs to be captured. So what we did was refine those algorithms into which ones of these can we implement now. So Igor is going to run you through those new algorithms that the deep funding data analysis circle will implement for comparison. And then after that, we'll talk a bit about DF4 proposal. So Igor, the floor is yours. Can you see the slides now? Sorry, I don't know which Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome.
Actually,
Great.
Yeah.
Joanna, I was going to suggest before you do that, I think now
Mhm.
might be good time to get some input from the community
Oh, sure.
about how this went from their perspective before we dive into the details of the algorithms. So
Yeah,
any
sure. Actually, that's
comments
not a
or
bad
thoughts,
idea. We can
you know,
separate that
about
into two.
how this round of doing the deep funding analysis went? Surely someone has either some gripes or some comments or some compliments. No takers, huh?
Awesome,
Well,
no worries.
compliments.
Oh,
So I think the biggest compliment is that for probably for most of the community, they didn't notice much difference. And I think that's a compliment because it was pretty seamless. I know from my point of view, I was busy at some point, and we did a great job together to pull it all together in that short time frame, etc. But we made it work. So yeah, it's I think it's great, and yeah, from now on we have a stable foundation that we can only improve upon.
absolutely.
Well, and I'll add to that too, that I really appreciate the leadership Joanna provided, because it wasn't under our milestones to have this ready for milestone 4. But as the team progressed, we saw that that was a possibility. And Joanna and the team really came through. And then also just a compliment to Dominic and Roman, who put in a lot of overtime once we decided to make the commitment of supporting SingularityNET and actually using it. And maybe I'll just say too, like this was, we had built into our contracts this time a reserve budget so that we could respond to things like that. And then so we agreed as a team to give a significant portion of that to Roman because of the overtime he put in to making this happen.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Great, thank you. Also from my side, I was hugely relieved that this is now and from now on also out of my hands. So I don't bear the responsibility anymore to do all these things in an increasingly complex spreadsheet. In round 4B beta, we already used another tool, an intermediate tool, but it was being refactored. And you really went to the last mile here, also creating the final deliverable in the way that we did it before. So it was from A to Z a product and a result from the PHOTREK team. So thanks a lot for that, and kudos. Yeah, great work.
Well, thank you for being so supportive throughout this whole process. And in milestone 7, we do have like a recommendation section. So a couple recommendations to the team internally, but then also just how to make this process better. So one is obviously that I think everyone's busy doing their own thing, and sometimes teams are segmented, but this is a tool that brings many teams together. So some sort of cadence to keep up with how data is being stored across different databases, how that is being captured will make things like this easier for when data needs to be transferred. Because to implement these new algorithms, we do want to capture some more data like timestamps or different sort of metrics that will enhance some of these calculations. So ongoing conversations with the different teams that are capturing this sort of data is important so we can streamline it. And then this way it's very easy to keep feeding it into a tool like this. So that's one. And then also like what I really appreciated was the ability to build it through an API initially with this. I think that makes it really, really easy to keep fetching new data and enhancing it. But yeah, I mean, we can segment this and I'll talk a little bit more about some other recommendations following Igor's explanation of those algorithms that we can implement right now, at least for comparison analysis.
Can I take 1 more minute here?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, first of all, also thank you for our team indeed for making that API and working with you guys and changing it and until it was perfect. And thanks for
Absolutely.
your guidance also in that. And so the development team also went the extra mile to get that done. Also, that API wasn't really on our roadmap yet. So great that we get that done. But the comment that I want to make here, maybe this is a good moment to focus a little bit on the data analytics circle that we are going to implement and to explain a little bit more about the context also here. So if you are interested in joining that circle, I saw a few questions on the chat. This is time to pay attention, right? Because the reason that we are putting this circle, well, as Rafael said, it's for any data-driven thing in deep funding, and we want that circle to also be independent and self-driving, self-steering. If you see something where you think you can add value or that needs a deeper analysis, then go for it. One of the first two things we have already lined up that need to be done as the first things. So the first thing what I used to do after each voting round is to make a blog with some analysis on the vote. So usually I looked at different scenarios. What if we would have not quadratic voting, or what if something else? What patterns did we see? What would we like to improve next time, etc. So always try to be very transparent on what went well, but also what could be improved. So I expect that from the analytics circle as well. And the other thing would be, what Igor will now explain is the new algorithm. So now we're looking at the old algorithms, which we have been using for a couple of rounds and adapting a little bit maybe. And this round, we have adapted them a little bit to be aligned with our new portal. So our new portal is a little bit different output than Sway because it has different functions. But it's still the old way. So a very important thing to do is to do the same thing with the same source files, but then with the new algorithms, and see whether things will change and whether the changes make sense or not. And based on that, give an advice to the rest of the program, Rafael and me, the all circles, on what you think should be adapted. Should we go with the new algorithms or not? Should these algorithms, is there room for improvement? Should we have another calculation model, etc., etc.? So for this circle, we may, for anybody that would like to solicit for a job there, or a role. Job is a little bit much said, but we only have one real condition is, as much as I love you PHOTREK guys, the people in this circle should not come from PHOTREK. Because we want this to be independent, and you have to be able to keep your independence from PHOTREK, but also from other parts of our organization, also from the backend automations from all circles, for instance. So that this is an entity that everybody can trust and rely on. So if we have a result and the review circle, the analytics circle will say, this is a good result, then we trust it. And yeah, you won't be deciding on everything, but you will be advising on a lot of things that are data oriented. So it's one more step towards the maturity of the deep funding program.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for that, Jan. And we completely agree, because a lot of these algorithms that Igor has mostly put in place are based on certain analytics, but you never really know till you experiment and you actually get results. But I love when things naturally flow. While we were trying to decide on which algorithms to create, we have a lot of documentation that I think we can share, and that will give a really good foundation for this team. And obviously we're open for questions and support in any way. But yeah, I think if anyone's most excited to see the results, I think it's Igor and then all of us. But yeah, Igor, if you want to just maybe talk a little bit about these new algorithms and your thought process behind them, that would be really great. I think, sorry, I skipped the slides.
Okay, so thank you very much, Joanna. Thank you very much, Jen. So here we have a recommendation of new algorithms. The first is about the eligibility proposal criteria. Okay, so currently, Deep Funding has two criteria to calculate if a proposal is eligible or not. So the proposal needs a minimum grade of 6.5 and a minimum of 1% of people might vote on this project, to the project to be eligible. However, the second criteria can have some problems. So, for example, consider we have 5,000 people who are voting, and each people voting on 10 projects, for example. So it is possible that a bad quality proposal voted only by 3 people is funded because it has a high grade, and this will contradict good proposals which will not be funded. So this is a problem we have. So it's not easy to find the threshold. So a simple good idea to do is to calculate the threshold as a dynamic function of the community voting behavior. So, for example, we can consider that one proposal is eligible if the number of people who voted on that proposal is minimal 5%, for example, of the number of people who voted on all the proposals, excluding proposals with 0 vote. So if we use this method, we will use the community engagement to calculate a proper threshold value. So the threshold depends on the community. So, for example, if we have a poll election and the number of votes per proposal goes from 31 to 126, so a proposal would need, oops, I'm sorry, I mean a proposal goes from 3 votes to 126. So you have one proposal with only 3 votes, and the proposal with the most vote has 126 votes. So if you use this method, the proposal would need a minimal 10 votes to be eligible. So this method depends on the community to establish a more proper threshold value. Now, it is important to exclude the proposal with 0 votes because, for example, if there are 100 proposals and 50 of the proposals has no votes, then if we count 0 proposal with 0 votes, we may consider proposal with 0 votes as eligible, and this does not make any sense. So in a nutshell, the method is we only consider a proposal to be eligible if the number of people who voted on that proposal is a minimum of, for example, 5% of the number of people who voted on all the proposals, excluding proposal with 0 vote. So this is one idea more robust to the community behavior in voting. Next, please, Joanna. Okay, so other algorithm is about the voting entropy to solve extreme voting. So extreme voting is, for example, when one individual skip a lot of proposals and only give extreme grades like 10 or grade 1. So, for example, the collection ID 9 only voted on 39 proposals from 117 proposals. And he gave grade 10 to just one proposal, the proposal 84, and skipped the other 38 proposals. So this is a good example of extreme voting. And this is not good. We want people to vote in a proper grade for the proposals. So we can use the data of the people to calculate the probability of each individual voting in one option. So the option can be voting skip, voting with grade 1, voting with grade 2, and so on until voting with grade 10. With these probabilities, we can calculate the voting entropy. And the voting entropy will tell to us how extreme the people is voting. So, for example, the voting entropy of the collection ID 9 is a number very close to 0. So this is bad. This shows to us the collection ID 9 is extreme voting. So go to next slide, please. So here we show the voting entropy of the people, of the individuals in the Deep Funding. And with the voting entropy, we can make a separation between people who are extreme voters and people who are responsible on next voters. So this can amplify the voice of the people who are doing the hard work in voting in Deep Funding platform. Okay. Now, other things is the community engagement score. So all the algorithm consider the creating comments, receiving upvote or downvote reactions, and we included some additional features. So, for example, we included a penalization factor. If the comment is made in a project, the individual is some way related to or is working in the project. In the same way, the weight of an upvote reaction is penalized if the reaction comes from a team member of the ID. Similarly, the score is penalized if the comment is a reaction to other comment made by the same ID. Other thing to do is we can improve the comment score if the comment was upvoted by the project owner. So this is very good. And one thing that is very important is we can include a temporal decay rate on the score. In this way, we can promote continuous engagement from the user in the community. Now, from this, we need to do timestamps. So this is one thing that we are still working to get the data from. But this algorithm is good because it mitigates the bias effect. And it is encourage people to make comments in different projects to different people, and this can help more the community. Other thing is the proposal engagement score. So we can evaluate the hard working of people who conclude the proposal in Deep Funding. So for example, we can consider the average community review of the proposal to calculate a proposal engagement score of one individual. This proposal engagement score considers the number of concluded proposals the individual made, and the higher the average community review of the concluded proposals, the more it contributes to increase the proposal engagement score of the individual. However, it also considers not funded proposals from this individual. And here we consider the closer the average community review is to 1, the more it decreases the proposal engagement score of the individual. So if a proposal of the individual is not funded and the average community review of the proposal is very bad, for example, then it will further decrease the proposal engagement score of the individual. One potential problem is centralization, because we can give too much voting power to people with a lot of concluded proposals. So we consider the proposal engagement score in ranks. So for example, the top 20% users with a lot of concluded proposals can have proposal engagement score equal to 1. On the other hand, the people with no concluded proposals will have a proposal score of 0.2, for example. So in this way, we can have a healthy competition of a proposal engagement, but without centralizing too much voting power on the hands of teams or people with a lot of awarded and concluded proposals.
Igor, I see that Walter has a question. Maybe we can take his question now.
Yeah, sure.
Actually, kind of meta question. How would you prefer the feedback? Because not surprisingly, mine is rather detailed based on threat analysis for gaming the system. So, I mean, we can do that offline or we can tackle them sometime today.
What do you think, Eric?
Well, Joanna, do you have a process for getting some feedback from the community as part of our final report?
Yeah, so I was hoping we would have a short discussion after the presentation, and then I was maybe going to put together a short form for anyone that hasn't been here that wants to add any input or for any discussions that didn't make it today.
Yeah,
So
Okay,
either
well,
way, we will be able to capture it.
sounds good. There is one thing I'd like to comment on today, which is basically in voting, there are two approaches towards voting for your own type stuff. So, of course, in popular voting, you are not only allowed but encouraged to vote on your own candidacy. Also, at the board level, it's usually similar that you support your own candidacy, whereas in other environments, you're explicitly the policy is to disallow that so people can abide by that policy. So to me, it's a policy decision rather than a calculation decision. My preference would be that you are encouraged to vote for your own proposal, the assumption that you will vote favorably, implies that you're less than a proper professional. And anyways, this is trivially gamed. It simply encourages that people hide their affiliations with the projects. And so, basically, to me, it's even if you want to disallow voting for your own, it will be gamed.
Yeah, that was one of the principal reasons. Those kinds of things are sort of a principal reasons why I advocated that we look at the quadratic preferential voting, which we're studying under DF4, and Joanna's going to get to later.
Yep.
But I'll just comment that we did, on that project, we did set up a red team that includes Walter. So we're getting input from Walter and Deborah. And the way that's working is Igor and Andre are doing the simulation work, and then they submit a milestone. And then after that milestone is submitted, it goes through the regular review for, that we completed what we said we were going to complete. But then it also goes through a more technical depth review by Walter and Deborah. And that more in-depth review becomes part of our next report. So that's, but, getting back to my main point, exactly what Walter just described is kind of a core weakness of having just the grade from 1 to 10 without any cost built in. So one way of providing some cost is like Igor just described with an entropy calculation. And another way to do it is to use the quadratic preference, where if you want to express a stronger opinion about a particular proposal, you also have to kind of pay more in your allocated budget.
There is a
Yeah, thanks.
peculiarity in the way the pools are being run. So, if you have preferences for certain proposals in a particular pool, while you calculate all your stats across the entire 192 proposals, it's trivial to arrive at any desired distribution of scores, participation, comments by simply voting the way you want to within a pool and compensating across all the other pools.
Yeah, thanks,
Thank you.
Walter, and thanks, Kenrick. It's very interesting. So other algorithm we have is we have a problem is that some people can buy a lot of tokens before the elections to have more voting power. And after the election, after the poll, they sell the tokens and not engage more with the community. So this is not good. And to value more people who we are engaged with the community, we can consider the tokens will increase the value over time. So this also helps to solve the wallet splitting problem because when some people do wallet splitting, the time count of the money will restart. So effectively, you are losing money over time. So when you buy the tokens, you need to wait some time for the token to gain value, and this will give you more voting power. So this is one way to encourage people holding tokens for more time and not doing wallet splitting. And next, okay, and finally, we can calculate a total engagement score of the individuals. So we have the voting entropy multiplying the comment score plus the proposed engagement score. What is very important is that the voting entropy is multiplying outside. So if, for example, if one individual has a lot of good comments and a lot of concluded proposals, but he has not good voting behavior, so he is an extreme voter, so the effective total engagement score of this individual will be closer to zero. So having a good voting behavior is very important, is crucial, but we encourage people to make a good comment and to conclude the proposals. But the very most important part is having a good voting behavior. So we have the weight of each individual will depend on time because the engagement score depends on time and the token also depends on time because we have the temporal decay on the engagement. So we promote continuous engagement and the tokens increase over time. So the weight of the individuals will change over time. And with this, we can calculate the average grade of the proposal. So this is a review of the new algorithm.
Great. Yeah, so thank you very much for that, Igor. So obviously, with the current data that we have right now, this is what we based a lot of these algorithms on. But we couldn't realize their true potential because there's some data that isn't captured. So for example, we won't be able to apply the temporal time decay for for tokens because there's no way for us to capture transaction data just yet from the blockchain. Or in the current data exports that we have, comments and upvotes, and those don't have timestamps. So that's another recommendation that we're going to put forth. So there's some tweaks that we need to apply in terms of gathering this data to truly realize some of these algorithms, but we have scaled them back that we can apply most of them for this comparison analysis that the data analysis circle will hold. But because of a lot of these limitations, and obviously like this is just one part of this greater architecture or greater tool that Deep Funding and SingularityNET is thinking of in terms of capturing reputation. Engagement and reputation isn't limited to, or shouldn't just be limited to how you interact with Deep Funding. The end goal is to really be able to capture a variety of engagement metrics and participation metrics across different channels, different tools, different social media platforms. So with that, we have created a proposal that got funded in Deep Funding Round 4 to create 3 RFPs. And each RFP will highlight a critical layer, let's call it, for this greater architecture of what this reputation tool will be. This is based on a lot of conversations had with Jan, a lot of requirement gathering happening through these workshops. So this has kind of been a long time coming, and we really wanted to just initially build a tool that deep funding can use now, and continue to use while this greater architecture is being built and improved upon. So we didn't want to kind of limit what could be happening for deep funding with everything that we have right now. So deep funding's tool could also keep getting improved while this bigger tool is being realized. So the first RFP, or like the first milestone, we want to have like a community workshop that's mostly going to be around architecture design. So if any of you guys are interested, obviously I'll be sending some more information around that, but we want to just dig a little deeper into what this architecture would look like, and just get some feedback there. The second RFP is what we're referring to as the microservice layer, what Jan refers to as the microservice layer. And this is essentially what we're envisioning, where all these different microservices will fit in to capture a lot of this data and this engagement metrics. So for example, this tool that we built for deep funding now could essentially be one microservice. A blockchain data pipeline or exporter could be another microservice. And this blockchain data pipeline is what will potentially capture all this transaction data that we'll need to understand user behavior more. Another microservice could be something like a social layer. So how can we capture data from different social media platforms like Discord or Twitter or Telegram, so to be able to kind of capture community engagement on these platforms. So we want to, through this RFP, we're going to highlight what those microservices are and create hopefully high level or good level requirements for building those microservices. And then the second layer is the adaptive algorithm. So as you could see, a lot of these algorithms will continue to evolve based on a lot of the data that we'll keep capturing. So right now, these algorithms are specific to what we have for deep funding, but we want to be able to keep improving them the more we have the capability to capture more variables or inputs. So we want to create some sort of layer where these algorithms can be easily configured and easily adopted. Adopted and adapted both. So that's the second RFP. And the third one is a knowledge graph layer. So there's going to be a plethora of data being captured. How do we store it? What's the best database architecture that is being used? I know SingularityNET is very heavy on knowledge graphs. I know PHOTREK also want a proposal to build a architecture for an uncertain knowledge graph. So there's a lot of conversation happening there. So we want to dedicate this part of the project to just digging deep into what could a knowledge graph for this specific use case look like? What's the ontology? How would it be adopted? So essentially, this is what the next proposal will be dedicated towards. We definitely need a lot of community workshops, or a lot of community input. So we'll have a lot more of these town halls, a lot more engaging conversation. But yeah, this is pretty much it. I know it took a lot of your time, but we wanted to kind of dig deep into this because this is what will segue into the data analysis circle, the next portion of this. So if you guys have any questions, any recommendations, anything that you think is important for us to capture, we can have a short conversation now, but also please message me or Igor or any one of us. Yeah, thank you. Jan?
Yeah, thank you for the presentation. I have a couple of things to say. So actually, I lost my thread here, but first of all, if we have this adaptive layer, this adaptive algorithmic layer, we can do more sophisticated calculations, and we can do more. Oh yeah, that's the first thing I wanted to say. I maybe I wasn't that clear before, but I really appreciate the sophistication of many of these algorithms. personally believe they are better than what we have currently, much better in some situations. Probably not perfect, as also Walter pointed out. And thank you, Walter. I understood your point that if you do extreme voting, on average it looks great, but in one pool you have only zeros, in another pool you have only nines, and in a third pool you have only fives. Then on average it still looks nice, but in your pool you're still doing extreme voting. So this is the kind of feedback and input that we can really benefit from. And of course, we can work around that. Igor is extremely smart in these things. I found out. So, but yeah, it will build on the complexity. I remember when I first talked about extreme voting in round 2 or something. I don't know. That I said, well, people that will only have zeros and 10, we may give them a different weight. That actually we heard some people in the community say, well, then from now on we will vote with 2s and 9s instead of 10s and zeros. So they were actually thinking about that. But of course, what Igor has devised here, it goes way beyond that. It won't be that easy to game. But yeah, then there are smarter people like Walter that still find a way to go across. So there will be an ongoing thing, and we need to find out to what extent we need to elaborate that. So one thing that I didn't hear, and also I didn't put forward recently, if we have that algorithmic layer and we get reputation in a decent format, then one next level could be a liquid weighted rank reputation. Meaning that if you get feedback from somebody with a high reputation, it will give you a higher weight than the same feedback from somebody with a low reputation. Of course, first we need to have our baseline reputation in order, because otherwise it will just go the wrong way faster. But this could make it very robust. And one final thing I would like to mention here is that so you said at the beginning, Joanna, we still don't know what to call this. Is it a contribution score? Is it an engagement score, etc.? I do think we'll probably have multiple scores. So the more I think about it, what are the concrete ratings that I'm thinking about right now is a team reputation. Now, you already tied into that by looking at past proposals and completion rates, etc. So that's great. Maybe we can think of other metrics as well that determine the reputation of a team. But so we're heading there. But that could be a separate reputation. And I also believe that there will be a lot of value in future community experts doing a lot of work. And I hope that we can also have an expert rating so that the best experts that have the most insight and have the highest seniority will have a higher rating, and they will get different kind of jobs based on that. And then finally, there's of course the contribution score. So how much do you add to the program in general? And yeah, we can use all these ratings for different things. So, and I think that's the cool thing about this platform. We have input, we have calculation layer, and we have output. So in the output, even using the same input, we could have different outputs based on different needs. So yeah, I think this is a very good step in the right direction. I don't think it will never be completely perfect. And maybe it also doesn't need to be. But if we get into a system that is robust enough where we can be sure that, let's say, 95% of the outcomes are correct, that would, and really be sure about that, that would already be a very good place to be. So that's it. I'll shut up now.
Rafael, you can go ahead.
I guess, yeah, thank you. I guess it's my turn, right? Yeah, Jan slightly touched in what I am willing to discuss here, at least should understand if I understood correctly. One very important point that we have, and I was just this morning discussing about it, is, well, Deep Funding is a live system, right? It's a system of systems most of the times. We have plenty of systems operating and interconnected, and it gives a final result. And towards this RFP design here of reputation, if understood correctly, the number 3, the adaptive algorithm, would be the part in charge of receiving new types of reputation, right? We discussed it here about the expert reviewers, but it's something that's already exists, but it's not formatted. So we are formatting this, but we want to have levels of profession or roles in it. But we also can create something completely new that will have a different type of reputation, which has nothing to do with whatever we created at this point. So it also has to be connected to this overall frame of reputation. So the adaptive algorithm would deal with this type of situation. Is that the case?
Yes, exactly. And I think in theory, hopefully in practice, that's exactly what we want to do, is to separate it as its own layer or tool or whatever you want to call it. And then we need to streamline what like a two-way API communication would look like across all these different services, or how this data will be transferred. But to be able to separate them and then feed it into an algorithm layer is, I think, what makes the most sense. But obviously, this is why we want to have this architecture design workshop and just kind of understand in practice what that would look like. But exactly that, because we want to be able to capture all different types of ratings and outputs and incorporate that into a final result, or maybe also be able to configure this result into fitting different use cases. So I think that this sort of approach will give it that flexibility. We'll find out. Hopefully we're all aligned.
I guess that's the key word here, flexibility, that you have to have, because not only technically how we are going to input this system here and the data that we have about the reputation of specific members that did something, but how we connect and calculate the weight of those points in the overall system. So this is very interesting, especially because we have sometimes overlapping members doing many things. So how to put different weights or types of reputation points in the same system, right? Yeah, well, that's good to know that you already thought about, and it's very important. Another thing is that perhaps, not sure if it's possible to operate this now, or we should aim for next RFPs or next type of funding. But for instance, today, what happened? Igor presented, and it's amazing what you did so far. But then we had Walter, right? He came with a different way of thinking and put some and put the finger in the wound, and that's the way it should be, right? That's good to have, but not necessarily we are going to have this in as it happened now by someone raising their hand and say, hey, this is potentially something that we have to take care. So something that I'm looking for now, and I'm even bringing into Deep Funding, is the bug bounty. So in a way that we can pay an award for people to find the problems with your idea and architecture in general, and then we can reward them. Well, the size of the reward is up to discussion, but having this, we would have the whole community and even people from outside, which is good because we can grow the community by having this feature. People will get more interested, they will be rewarded, and so on, to give support into what can goes wrong with your proposal. Yep, that's all.
Yeah, I think that's a really great approach. I think this touches on, designing all this stuff and building it is one thing, maintenance is another thing, and then also governing it is another conversation that I think we'll end up all having to have, is who governs this system, who interacts with it, who gets to configure these algorithms, like all these questions. So I think that will definitely also be a really great conversation to have. I did have my hand up, but I don't want to skew the conversation. So Ubio, I don't know if you had a question or any feedback.
Okay, maybe just writing on what Rafael said. I wanted to ask, so I don't know who this question is probably directed to? Is it to your team, to Rafael, or to Jan, or all three of you, or all of you, or all of us, right? So I just wanted to know what the process of adoption of these algorithms would generally be, because if this were to be a chain, we would be saying this is a hard fork, right? So we are directly shifting the network and technology and algorithm that has been powering the voting system, and what we are going to be taking a totally different algorithm. So I wanted to know what that process of adoption would be. Yeah, so okay, that means it's yeah, and the questions that is directed to. And then also, yeah, like Rafael said, I think I want to see a lot more engagement, because I have looking at the algorithm based on what was presented the last time. I think I've seen close to about 4 to 5 issues with it. And these are and they need direct engagements to be able to. It's not just something I can say, I think this is wrong. It needs a lot of conversation to why I think, and the basis for those conversations as well. So, but I just wanted to know, how will this be adopted?
Yeah, if I can, so if you're talking about a new algorithm, what I usually talk about is we have a maturity, a life cycle, which goes from experimental to consolidation to governance. So we started with this whole reputation thing and quadratic, well, a square root of wallets. I can't use it, quadratic voting anymore. As very experimental on a spreadsheet on my computer without any safeguards or very little safeguards against Sybil attacks, etc. We're now getting into a situation of consolidation because we've done it a few times. We have these algorithms, and we now have a platform, and a platform that will allow us to build upon and improve without changing everything, but we can just change certain algorithms, certain feeds, etc. So after this will come the stage of governance. But I think we can already do a little bit of governance here right now. And this is where the data analytics circle comes in. So this shouldn't be my decision whether we change an algorithm. This shouldn't be Igor's decisions either, although both of us can have our opinion and can advise, etc. But I would like to have an independent entity, if you want, a group of people that are not affiliated with PHOTREK, but are also not me or Rafael, looking at this from as much as possible unbiased angle. So that's the purpose of the data analytics circle. And I expect them going forward to analyze, to work with PHOTREK, to be critical, like Walter just is. So have a constructive, critical approach. And then say, well, these algorithms are great, but this one can be improved, and maybe we need a new one, etc. And that will be an advice to me and Rafael and perhaps the all circles. And if we go further, so what I expect, if we get further along, maybe in a year from now, these algorithms will be increasingly stable and trustworthy, and we'll get to a situation where we think, wow, actually they are more or less great. We don't need to change them anymore. But then the world changes. Somebody comes with some other great algorithm. We get more people, whatever, something changes. And then we do need to adjust it. And that would be the real governance phase. And then we would have even, would need even better processes where we'll do a vote or have consensus or whatever. So there will be an advice and people will vote, and then we'll decide to make that change. But when we get in that phase, those changes should be rare, because otherwise you're making a huge bureaucracy and there will be no progress. I think we're still at the stage that we need to learn and progress fast, but we're actually also starting to learn with the governance by having that separate circle.
All right, thank you. But I think the second question has not been answered. That's to say, for community members like me, who is not in the analytical circle that has gone through some of the algorithms and probably other people, how would that be how would it be real engagements that enable not just feedback, but exchange of opinion and discussions that can enable us to influence what is going on?
Well, the answer would be the same as for any decision that we make in the program, right? And we make, Rafael and me make decisions on a daily basis, and we can't have a group discussion on all of them. You would be tired about that very quickly. But if it's an important one, then we can have a discussion about it. And if these decisions, these changes become more rare, then the level of importance can go down where we have a group discussion. So yeah, that's what we're doing right now, right? So we're sharing this information with you. We're explaining the algorithms, and we're giving you now the opportunity to respond to that. So I expect that will continue going forward. And then, yeah, maybe it's a responsibility of the data analytics circle. Maybe it's a responsibility of the focus group to mediate between the community and the internal group. But yeah, I think that is not unique to this particular thing. It is about anything we change in the program. All right, thank you. I'll put my hand up again and I wait patiently for my turn.
Clement, go ahead.
Yeah, hi everyone. Great stuff, PHOTREK, your team as well. I'd like to say, yeah, and great explanation as well. I just wanted to speak to voter protection in terms of new voters coming into the ecosystem. Now, I looked at the whole algorithm stuffs, and then there are stuffs around the let's, then I also saw that moving forward to be talking around.
Am I the only one not hearing him?
Yeah,
Talking about maybe
It's breaking up
prior to
me
the voting
too.
and stuff like that.
So
Oh, sorry.
Clement, we are not hearing
So-
you. We hear you in beats. After every 30 second you go.
Sorry. Can you hear me now, guys?
Yeah.
Oh my. Oh my. I'm sorry. So sorry about that. Yeah, so I was talking about something around protection of new voters coming into the ecosystem. Now, I looked at the algorithm, the certain sections that talked about implications around the age of wallets. And moving forward, Joanna talks about integrating a system where, you could capture data on a wallet prior to voting and how much implication that will have. Now, I don't know, it's a dynamic process for me. And we keep on getting new people on the program, and having new people translates to having new voters, right? So if we keep on, bringing in these algorithms that, around their age of wallets.
You're breaking up again, Clement.
Maybe. Oh my God! Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yeah, so Clement, the problem is that sometimes you
Yeah,
are
so
very crisp and clear, and sometimes we hear nothing. So if you say, "Can you hear me now?" Yeah, but maybe 10 seconds later we don't anymore.
I'm sorry about that, man. I'm sorry. It's kind of raining here, man. So the network is a little bit messy. Yeah, but I'll just continue. Yeah, so can we make considerations around protection for persons who get into the program? Because I mean, if we advertise for Deep Funding round 5, we're gonna get people come up, and they're gonna always maybe want to vote for the project, and they're gonna sign up new wallets, right? And then someone comes in here and he is like, "Oh, my wallet is relatively new. It means it has little to no value on voting." You know what I mean? Maybe something could be done around that. I understand that these algorithms are put into, put certain situations in check, like maybe voting manipulation, but maybe we could make considerations around protection for persons who, get into the funding program newly and want to vote as well.
Yeah, I mean, Igor can definitely add to that. I think one consideration that's put in place is like to capture continuous engagement. I know this is not directly related, but for example, it won't always favor people that have just been in the ecosystem for longer that haven't been actively engaged. So there's like temporal decay, for example. And this is to ensure that like no matter at what point you do join, it's about how continuously you are engaging within the ecosystem. So there's one sort of protection. And then I don't know, Igor, if I missed one, but I think this is the main one at this time that we can. And then obviously the more different types of data can be captured, then that will also be favorable. So you might be new to this ecosystem, but in the future, I'm saying, when it's not local reputation, but global reputation, we would be able to capture other things that might be favorable to you. I do have one comment about wallet history, and I think this actually I'll leave it till it's my turn after. But Igor, did I miss anything?
I agree with you. The temporal decay is a protection, and the new people in deep funding will have a higher score because they are contributing now. So this is some protection to them. So I think this can work, but you have a really good point. Thank you. But yeah, the temporal decay can help people who are new in the deep funding.
What, Clement, I would add, because this is related to what I was going to say, is that another way I think about these problems is that you also want to be building voting systems that have less reputation risk. So what I mean by that is part of why we want a reputation system is to counteract some risks that we have in the way we make decisions. But if you can also build into the voting system some ways to counter your susceptibility to reputation, that's also valuable. So for instance, like one progression I see is like if we can progress from the 1 to 10 gradings to the quadratic preferences, that reduces the risks of how people express extremes, because they have to actually pay for the strength of their preferences. And then at the same time, it's not really on the agenda right now, but a lot of the quadratic voting literature is actually focused around actual payments for votes rather than allocation by equity. And this would be another way to reduce risk because even if you had a lot of AGIX, if you have to pay for your votes and then that gets distributed to the community, that puts a lot of limitations on how much you're willing to spend, even on voting for your own projects, for instance. And so now you're getting closer to people actually only spending up to the point where they actually feel they're going to get some value out of the projects that are going to get funded. So the point, just to recap, is that in addition to building the reputation systems, we can also think about ways to build the voting system to reduce our risk against reputation.
I run out because I probably have in a couple of seconds. After the entirety of the whole framework has been maybe developed or implemented, it should be communicated to the community in the very simplest of forms. When I understand that, maybe I've got some background in computational mathematics and I'm able to understand some certain things about the algorithm, but I mean, everyone in the ecosystem may not have a background to understand that. And then it's just going to sound like jargons in the end. But then the understanding of this framework is very important to, both embolden their trust in the ecosystem, right? So it's just a suggestion from my own, and thank you very much.
Thanks.
Great, great contributions for everybody. Yeah, thanks, Clement. Trust is important, explainability is important, intuitivity is important when doing the actual voting. If somebody would do the voting, maybe they don't need to know everything that is behind it if they just have a basic trust in it. And I agree with you, Kenrick. One of the reasons why we entered reputation in the first place is to counter against Sybil attacks, because it would be much easier to create 100 wallets than create 100 reputations. Of course, it's not entirely the only thing. We might also value the actual vote of somebody that has proven themselves worthy in whatever way we think is relevant higher than the fact that somebody happens to have a lot of tokens, which I think makes a lot of sense. And actually, that's a good bridge to what I wanted to say. And it's for me a kind of a closing remark about this topic. Sorry, Abdul, you're after me right now, but you get your shot. We talked about deep funding and scenarios in deep funding. We also talked about that we're creating a platform that might also be useful for other use cases. And I'd like to make that concrete with one example that you might all be familiar with right now. I'm sure that most of you will remember our recent voting event on the ASI thing. And it was not a pretty picture in the sense that it was quite crude, right? We wanted to make it absolutely transparent and clear that it's not manipulated. And in order to do so, we had to move to one token, one vote. Nobody liked that internally, externally, but it was the best we could do at the moment because we don't have these sophisticated platforms yet. Now, the situation goes on because in a while, as I was explaining, we won't have AGIX anymore, but we will have ASI as for most token holders. Maybe some will hang on to their AGIX, that's possible, but ASI will be the main thing. So it means that also other people can come into our network. And for deep funding, that's not so much of a problem. Anybody that has a lot of common sense and has a good opinion is welcome to give it and to vote on a project. But if it's about SingularityNET and about some important decision within SingularityNET, yeah, we would like to have that also focused on SingularityNET community. And for that, actually, we can't rely, we can rely for a while on the snapshot that we created now or recently. So that will help us in the coming months. But the longer we use it, the less accurate it is for the current period. So we're also in SingularityNET, we're looking at a more reputation-based way of voting. So we're working on that. And yeah, I really hope it would be a great thing if we could implement whatever we will come up with on this platform, on this architecture, and use whatever inputs and calculation methods and outputs we will come up and think that is useful. So that could be a very real and useful second use case already.
Abdul Rahman, you had your hand up. Do you still want to speak or not anymore?
Yeah, thank you very much. I want to speak. Actually, thank you very much for the presentation for PHOTREK and auditing from the deep funding. I have a similar concern from what Clement has observed, and that is basically on the fact that there are people that will be coming, that will be joining the system, meeting a lot of people that are already in the system. So my concern is that the reputation score will be calculated separately on each funding round, or it will be a kind of aggregated score. Like if you have a reputation in this funding round, so in the next funding round, the reputation score will be maintained and added to the next reputation I'll be getting in the next funding round. So I feel that if that should be the case, that okay, I have a reputation score in this funding round, and it's not clear, it will be added with my reputation score in the next funding round. So that will give a kind of a let me say we might be possibly tending to a kind of what we are running from. people that happens to be the early adopter of this very particular algorithm, they have more voting reputation score than people that are joining in the following, or let me say, people that are just new users that will be joining us in the system. So which might really give a kind of a great disadvantage to them. So I want to confirm, would it be on a separate basis, like if you have this funding round, we calculate the voting score to ensure the voting process, then in the next funding round, we calculated another one, or will it be aggregated with reputation score? That's what
so far it
question.
has been round specific, but the improved algorithms are time. They capture time, so this allows for you to continuously be gaining a score. But like I mentioned, mitigation strategy is the temporal time decay. So it is over time, but the concept is that you will only be actually improving your score by continuously engaging. But to answer your question, eventually it would be aggregated over time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so for example, if we have one individual who has a lot of time in deep funding, but this individual is not contributing more in deep funding, is not making comments, is not making proposals, so he will not have a good score. So people who are new individuals, new users in deep funding, will not have a significant disadvantage, even because new people in deep funding who are engaging now will have a higher score because the score decays over time. So this protects new individuals who are coming from deep funding. It's a protection for them.
I would like to make one meta comment on this. So we can talk about what is a good decay rate or whether we should count previous rounds at all or not. But the main thing here is that we have a system where this is configurable. And I'm just reading what Walter says, source of truth, blah, 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 alignment with the community. So the thing is here that the reputation score should represent what the community wants it to represent. And then the next question is, what is the community? But we won't go there right now. But basically, all of us together will define what we think is important. Is it more important to have proof that somebody has been consistently around? Or do we think it's more important to have as many new people in as possible and take the risk that some people may be gaming the system? And maybe you have other algorithms that can do the same thing in a better way. But this is a discussion of configuration. So
Exactly.
we have a platform that enables us not only to have these discussions, but also act on them. And I think that is the big benefit of.
Exactly. And I just want to close this off on our end. Thank you, everyone. This has been great feedback. So I tried to capture a lot of it, and we'll definitely integrate it into our final report. As well, a lot of the simulation outputs hopefully will be also integrated into our design thinking when going into the next proposal. But yeah, this was very interesting, very exciting. Thank you for a great show up. And please, if you guys have any other thoughts or comments or anything you think is important for us, just message me on Mattermost or Discord or wherever you can find me. Or Igor, obviously, or Kenrick or Jan, whoever.
Thank you everyone very much for the contribution from the feedback. I am very grateful.
Yeah, thank you everyone for the input. This is really terrific. It'll be very helpful as we do this RFP design work now.
So if you thought this was a very interesting discussion, then you have to submit for the data analytics circle.
Right.
Indeed. The link is in the chat.
And of course, you have to come back to more town halls because we'll have many more interesting discussions, of course. Well, thank you so much, Joanna and PHOTREK. I also have some questions, so I'll send it to you, Joanna, afterwards. And I invite everyone to do the same. And yeah, it was great being here with you all. I hope you enjoyed the space, and I think we'll be finishing up by now, unless Jan and Rafael have some last words.
I have a last word. Thank you, Rafael, for presenting. You did a great job. You're natural and wonderful to have you here.
Thank you. Yeah, a lot to improve, but thank you. All right,
great.
everyone.
It's a path, and thank you very much, Rafael, for accepting this challenge. We are really glad to have you here. Also, Mayor helping. So let's increase this and improve this circle. Okay, thank you. Thank you all as well for being here.
Maybe one of these Rafaels has to shave their beard off, because it's the name that is confusing here.
Yeah. I'm gonna keep the F. You are going to go with the PH, Rafael. So
you can call me Deep Funding now.
Okay. Well, it's a change from decentralized nation.
Yeah, exactly. every meeting a new name, I guess.
All right. Thanks a lot, guys. It was a great meeting, and thanks, PHOTREK, for all the hard work and the wonderful presentation. Really appreciate it. We'll be talking about this for a long time.
All right, everyone. Have an amazing day. Thank you so much, and I hope to see you back in the next town hall.
Very quick one, Jan. This is a very complex problem. People have tackled it before. It's a good thing you've been persistent in pursuing it.
Thank you. Coming from you, Walter, that's a big compliment. Thank you.
Walter, by the way, as you're here, this is completely unrelated, but I'm not sure how to save the chat history. I don't know if anyone here is familiar with that.
No, but I did capture, I did copy the suggestion for the survey. So hopefully if that's what you're trying to find, then I'll send it over to you.
Yeah, we can check.
I was just able to do it, so don't worry. Sorry, I was trying at the same time, but yeah, it's done. Thank you, guys.
There is a preference in Zoom where you there's this huge amount of preference, and there's one that it always automatically saves the chat next to the recording, etc. So maybe we can turn that on somewhere.
Yeah, I'll look to turn that off for the next meeting. This meeting I've saved it manually, and thank you all, everyone, and don't forget to be back again in next Thursday.
Thank you, everyone.
Cool.
Bye bye.
Thank you.
Bye now.
See you later. Bye, guys.
Thank you.